Assalamu Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh. As Eid al-Adha approaches, many questions begin to appear in people's minds. Can every animal be used for Qurbani? What if the horn is broken? What if the animal is weak or has a defect? Is a castrated animal allowed for sacrifice? How many days can Qurbani be performed? And does Allah really receive the meat and blood of these sacrifices? Today, we will explore these important questions through the Quran and authentic Hadith in a simple, engaging, and easy to understand way. By the end of this video, you will understand not only the rulings of Qurbani but also the true spirit and purpose behind it. The real purpose of Qurbani. Many people think Qurbani is simply about slaughtering an animal, but the Quran teaches us something much deeper. Allah says in Surah Al-Hajj that neither the meat nor the blood of the sacrificed animal reaches Him. What truly reaches Allah is your taqwa, sincerity, and obedience. This means that Qurbani is not just a ritual. Allah does not need the animal itself. What matters is the condition of our hearts, our intentions, and our willingness to sacrifice for His sake. The Prophet also reminded us of this reality when he said that Allah does not look at our appearance or wealth, but He looks at our hearts and our deeds. So the true value of Qurbani is not measured by the size or price of the animal, but by the sincerity behind the act. Which animals are not acceptable for Qurbani? The companions once asked the Prophet about the kinds of animals that are not suitable for sacrifice. The Prophet clearly explained that animals with obvious defects should not be used for Qurbani. He mentioned animals that are clearly blind in one eye, severely sick, obviously lame, or extremely weak and thin. Such animals are not considered proper for sacrifice because Qurbani is an act of respect and devotion to Allah, and Muslims are encouraged to offer the best they can. Another hadith mentions that the Prophet instructed Muslims to carefully inspect the eyes and ears of sacrificial animals. This shows that Islam teaches responsibility, care, and honesty when choosing an animal for Qurbani. Broken horns, cut ears, and defects. One of the most common questions people ask today is about animals with broken horns. Scholars explain that if a horn is naturally small, undeveloped, or appears that way from birth, then the Qurbani may still be valid. However, if the horn is severely damaged or broken in a noticeable way, then it becomes a matter of concern. The Quran even refers to the practices of the people of ignorance who used to cut the ears of animals as part of false religious customs. Allah mentions this in Surah An-Nisa while describing how Shaitan misguides people into changing Allah's creation. This teaches us that Muslims should avoid unnecessary cruelty or mutilation of animals and should respect the creation of Allah. Changing the creation of Allah. While explaining the verse from Surah An-Nisa, some early scholars mentioned that castrating animals could fall under changing the creation of Allah. This statement is narrated from Anas ibn Malik in Tafsir al-Tabari. However, there is an important detail that many people miss although some scholars discuss this issue. Authentic hadith also confirm that the Prophet himself sacrificed 2 beautiful white and black horned rams that were castrated. This clearly shows that a healthy, castrated animal can still be used for Qurbani. In fact, some scholars even considered such animals preferable because their meat is often better and healthier. During the sacrifice, the Prophet made a beautiful dua asking Allah to accept the sacrifice on behalf of himself, his family, and his ummah. This shows the mercy and generosity of the Prophet toward his followers. How many days is Qurbani allowed? Many people believe that Qurbani can only be performed on Eid day, but the matter is broader than that. The Prophet described the days of Tashreeq as days of eating, drinking, and remembering Allah. These are the 11th, 12th, and 13th of Dhul-Hijjah. Some companions, including Ali ibn Abi Talib, stated that the days of sacrifice are 3. Other narrations mention that Qurbani continues for 2 days after Eid. Because of these narrations, scholars held slightly different opinions regarding the final time for Qurbani. Some allow it until the 12th of Dhul-Hijjah, while others allow it until sunset on the 13th. This difference of opinion is based on authentic narrations and scholarly interpretation. Sacrificing before the Eid prayer. Another important ruling is the timing of Qurbani. Some people may slaughter the animal before the Eid prayer, thinking that it still counts as Qurbani. However, the Prophet clearly explained that whoever sacrifices before the Eid prayer has only prepared meat for his family. It does not count as Qurbani. This hadith teaches us that acts of worship must be performed according to the method taught by the Prophet. Therefore, the correct time for Qurbani begins only after the Eid prayer has been completed. Saying Allah's name during slaughter, the Quran commands believers not to eat from an animal over which the name of Allah has not been mentioned. Because of this, saying Bismillah, Allahu Akbar at the time of slaughter is extremely important. It reminds Muslims that life belongs to Allah alone and that even this act of sacrifice is done only for His sake. Islam teaches mercy and respect even during slaughter, and this is why the Prophet instructed Muslims to treat animals with kindness and avoid causing unnecessary pain. The message of Ibrahim. The story of Qurbani takes us back to Prophet Ibrahim, who was willing to sacrifice what he loved most for the sake of Allah. The Quran says that you can never achieve true righteousness until you spend from what you truly love. This is the spirit of Qurbani. Qurbani is not only about sacrificing an animal, it is about sacrificing pride, selfishness, greed, and worldly attachment. It is a reminder that a true believer puts Allah above everything else. Qurbani is a beautiful act of worship filled with lessons of sincerity, obedience, sacrifice, mercy, and gratitude. When understood correctly, it becomes much more than a yearly ritual. It becomes a way to strengthen our relationship with Allah. If you found this video helpful and informative, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions related to Qurbani, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. Assalamu Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh.